Hello and welcome to Bored and Confused, where I review shows based on two criteria. One, was I bored? Two, was I confused? Today's show is Ken Rex, a true crime thriller. It's playing at the Lucille Lortel Theatre Off-Broadway. Now, before I jump into this exciting new play, please take a moment to like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps me grow this channel. So, what did I know about Ken Rex going in? Well, I knew two things. Basically, one, I knew it had come from London, and anything that comes over from London, you assume, must be doing something right to make the jump across the pond. And two, it is billed as a true crime thriller. I'd also seen this poster, which made me think it was a one-man show, and I assumed it had some rock star energy to it. So most of those assumptions turned out to be correct, with one surprise. There are actually two performers on stage. We have an actor and we have a musician. The play is written by Jack Holden and Ed Stambollouian. The score is composed by John Patrick Elliott, and on stage you've got Jack Holden performing all the characters and John Patrick Elliott providing the music live. And then Ed Stambollouian, the co-writer, also directs this. So it's really a three-person endeavor. A little bit of history about Ken Rex. It had its world premiere up in Sheffield at the Tanya Moiseiwitsch Playhouse in October 2024. From there, it moved down to London, first to Southwark Playhouse, Borough, in early 2025, and then a return engagement at the Other Palace from December 2025 through February 2026. Then it picked up 6 Olivier Award nominations, including Best Play, and walked away with 2. Jack Holden won Best Actor, and Giles Thomas won Best Sound Design, which, having seen this play, makes complete sense to me, and I'll get into that in a bit. So this run at the Lucille Lortel is its New York City debut. It's an 11-week limited engagement that starts April 15th and opened tonight, April 26th. So what is the show about? A quick synopsis. The play is based on a true story set in Skidmore, Missouri in 1981. Ken Rex McElroy was the town bully, and bully is the best way to describe this man. We're talking about a guy who was accused or suspected of dozens of crimes over years and years. Theft, cattle rustling, arson, burglary, assault, child molestation. He was charged 21 separate times and almost never convicted because he intimidated witnesses into being silent. And the whole town lived in fear of this man. In July of 1981, McElroy was sitting in his pickup truck on the main street of Skidmore when somebody, or actually multiple somebodies, because the bullets came from at least 2 different guns, shot and killed him. There were 30 to 40 people standing right there. But when questioned, no one could or would identify a shooter. To this day, no one has been charged with the murder of Ken Rex McElroy. The play is told largely through the perspective of the local prosecutor, a guy who believes in the law and is trying to bring McElroy to justice the right way. And what the play really ends up being about, in the end, is what happens when the legal system fails so completely that a community decides they have to take things into their own hands. So a quick side note for anyone who wants to go down this rabbit hole of this story, there's a 1991 TV movie called In Broad Daylight starring Brian Dennehy, who makes frequent appearances in my nightmares, Cloris Leachman, and Marcia Gay Harden. And that is based on this same case. They changed the names. It's fictionalized take, but it is basically the Ken Rex McElroy story. And that whole movie is up on YouTube. So if you see Ken Rex and want to know more about it, you can check out this movie. Although from my reading, it seems that this play, Ken Rex, is much truer to the actual facts of the case. So let's get into this, because this is a pretty straightforward show for me. And so this review is, I think, will be pretty concise. The Brits are known for their craft, and they especially love taking material that you think would never work on a stage, material that feels like it should probably be a movie or a docu-series or one of those reenactment shows, and they find a really inventive way to put it on the stage. I'm thinking about shows like Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime, War Horse, The Life of Pi, and last season's Punch, which was also based on a true story. There's a whole British tradition, I feel, of looking at unusual source material and finding a way to adapt it for the stage. And Holden and Stambollouian have absolutely done that here. The whole show, Jack Holden plays 30 plus characters, every single person in this small Missouri town. And he does it just by changing his voice, his posture, the way he tilts his head. And it's surprisingly not confusing at all. There are moments where the swap happens extremely fast, and I could see that someone might get a little lost, but personally, I was able to track it the whole way. And the kicker is that all of these characters are Midwesterners, and Holden is British. The fact that he's varying these American accents really speaks highly to his craft. It's quite mind-boggling. And John Patrick Elliott's music really supports the show. He's literally a one-man band. When you walk into the theater, you see 3 guitars, an acoustic, electric, a banjo. There's a piano and a ton of mic stands. And he is looping drum beats and layering guitar on top. And he's an incredible guitarist. The score is doing a lot of storytelling work. It's not just underscoring, it's really pushing the narrative, and in some moments almost makes it feel like we could do a musical in the vein of Dead Outlaw. Ed Stambollouian's direction uses levels really well. There's a little plexiglass booth that gets used for these phone calls. There's pre-recorded voices that Jack acts opposite. There's pre-recorded singing, and the sound design by Giles Thomas, the Olivier winner, is incredible. When the whole town is gathered, you hear voices coming from every corner of the theater. You feel like you're in the parking lot with them. It's immersive, it's fully realized theatrical experience, and it is not surprising at all that this thing has racked up the awards and the notoriety that it has. But here's my concern. The Brits do technical things really well, sometimes so well that I ask myself, are we doing this because it serves the story, or are we doing it to show off how technically proficient we are? And that question hovered over the show for me a little. And I have a little pet peeve, and this is on me as much as them, the volume. I had tinnitus in one of my ears for about 6 years this year. I got it after coming out of a bar where they slowly were cranking the volume all night, and I didn't notice how loud the music had gotten until I hit the street, and both of my ears were ringing. One faded, and then the other one rang for about 6 years before it slowly faded. So now when I'm out on the street and a construction worker drops a piece of sheet metal and makes a loud noise, my ear starts to ring again. So I'm really sensitive about loud noise. And Kenrex has very quiet moments, but it also has very loud moments, which means I couldn't just put in earplugs and leave them in. So I was having to use my fingers, which I feel like such an old man. But you guys who love rock music, John Patrick Elliott, Jack Holden, you're going to lose your hearing. Just bring it down a notch. And a note to myself, always bring earplugs to the theater, because you never know. I wouldn't have suspected that this play would have been so loud. Although this picture does look like it might be loud. The other thing I want to flag, and this is more of a feeling than a flaw, is that I was, as an American, a little embarrassed by this play. 3 British guys found this American story from the 1980s and decided that's the one we need to put on stage in London, about an American bully, about American lawlessness, about a community where justice never showed up. And I sat there going, are we just the place the rest of the world goes shopping for stories about failed justice? Could you not find this story in some little British town? The play is, in the end, about the failure of the law. The prosecutor at the center is a guy who believes the system will work if you just trust it. And what Kenrex shows you, methodically, is that it doesn't. It fails this whole town for years. And the fact that 3 British artists are delivering that lesson to an American audience hits a little differently. It made me sad and embarrassed. I will say, there is a bit of humor in the play. Holden playing women is fun. The way he embodies certain townspeople is genuinely funny. But there aren't really any jokes in the show. This is not a comedic show. The country and rock score makes the whole thing feel cool and propulsive, almost like a concert at times, which raises its own question. Is Ken Rex cool, the character? Is the prosecutor cool? Are we glamorizing any of this? I'm still kind of mulling that stuff in my brain. So, was I bored? Was I confused? Bored? Not at all. The constant switching between characters kept it moving. There's kinetic quality to watching one performer do this much work on stage. And even though there's a lot of exposition in this show, it kept me interested in where we were going. The story has gravity and the staging has momentum and interest, and that combination really kept me focused in on this 2-act play, which runs, I think, about 2 hours and 10 minutes, including the intermission. So was I confused? No, like I said earlier, some of the character changes are very fast, and I can imagine someone might lose the thread for a beat, but personally, I had no problem tracking it. And the dialect work is really specific, and the staging is clear that you always know who you're listening to. So let me wrap this up. Ken Rex is really a masterclass in solo performance, in using a score as storytelling, in sound design, in directing with minimal props. But it's also a dark and sad show about a town the law forgot. And you will not leave the theater feeling lighter. You will leave it impressed, but probably feeling a little bit heavier. So go check out Ken Rex if you love true crime thrillers, and if you want to see one acted out live by a human being, if you love the craft of theater direction that makes something out of almost nothing, if you're interested in hearing a score that really helps support a play and feels almost like a soundtrack, and if you want to hear about sound design, this is great for that. If you're an actor who wants a masterclass in dialect, posture, and character switching, this guy. If you're someone that believes the law will always protect you and that justice always wins out, because this show is going to ask you to sit with the possibility that it does not, especially in small Midwestern towns. Although I think this lawlessness and the bullying is not just relegated to small Midwestern towns, it is also prevalent on a national stage. So where did I sit? Well, I was fortunate enough to get press tickets for this, and they sat me in the orchestra in seat E3, which is 2 seats off the aisle, which gave me a good view of the show, although I wish I would have been on the aisle. I was having to work around the head of the person in front of me a little bit. And in this theater, I actually prefer the balcony because the orchestra rake is pretty shallow. So depending on who's sitting in front of you, you can spend the night kind of having to look around their head. The balcony tends to be a cleaner sightline, in my opinion. So where can you get your cheap seats? As of right now, I don't know because they haven't really announced any specific options. So keep an eye on Today Tix. That's usually my go-to for Rush and Lottery. But if any Rush Lottery or discount codes show up, I will put them in the description of this video. I'll update it. So if this sounds interesting to you, if you're into true crime thrillers, go check out Ken Rex. I mean, this is an impressive show. So go check it out. Come back, tell me what you thought. Bring your earplugs if you're sensitive like me, or just use your good old fingers. All right, thanks for watching. See you at the next one. Bye.
Don't bore me. Don't confuse me. If you do, then you'll lose me. Don't wanna drift away. Wanna stay inside the play. Keep me engaged, keep me amused with what's in front of me. 'Cause I don't wanna be bored and confused.